Crackdown is a game most people know as a game you bought to play the Halo 3 beta. I am not one of those people. I played Crackdown because I looked at it and thought, this looks fucking sick, I want to play that. Side note, I already played Halo 3 before I got Crackdown. And for those who have no idea what Crackdown is a game about superpowered police officers taking down organized crime. And with the third installment releasing soon, I wanted to take a look back at the original, and only the original, before the third game gets released in February. Crackdown has had a small impact on the industry, as you can see with games like Saints Row 4 and even Sunset Overdrive, in my opinion. Open world games should take more advantage of movement, and it's something that Crackdown does well. The game looks pretty good visually considering its age. It has a cel-shaded art style that has aged well. It looks different from other cel-shaded games, and the city's different areas all have a unique feel to them visually. Los Muertos has a street lifestyle. The Volk have a large industrial setting with some bosses taking place on shipyards or in factories. And the Shy Gen are surrounded by skyscrapers and neon signs. The character and his vehicle also have a nice progression that happens when you play more and level up. You get bigger and more armored, and your car slowly becomes the Batmobile. It's good stuff. There are a few times when the game doesn't look so hot, like when staring at things in the distance. The city is densely populated. There are tons of cars and civilians driving and walking around. I will say the HUD is a bit cluttered. The skills should fade in and out when they are upgraded or only appear when the next level is unlocked.
Your athletic skills are almost at their peak.
Alright, let's get to basics. You play as an agent in the agency and take down 3 organized crime syndicates by blowing them the fuck up. Crackdown is an open world third person shooter with combat being handled by the game's lock-on mechanic and movement that allows the player to scale every building in sight. You have 2 weapons along with grenades. The primary goal is to hunt down all members in each crime family. Side content to go along with this is restricted to orb collecting and races. Rooftop and driving races. There are 5 core skills that you'll be leveling up, and they are present on the left hand side. The 5 core skills are agility, driving, explosives, strength, and firepower. These are all self-explanatory, but for clarity's sake, I'll quickly go through all of them. Agility is increased by collecting orbs, completing races, and being above enemies when you kill them. Driving is upgraded via races and killing enemies with your car. Strength is done by kicking enemies or launching objects towards them. Explosives increase after killing enemies either with explosive weapons like rocket launchers or by grenades and gas canisters. Firepower is done by shooting at them. Really easy to understand stuff. There are 4 levels to every skill, and each increase presents new options for the player, such as increasing agility allows the player to jump higher and move faster, which makes climbing easier and opens new races. There are around 5 or so supply points in every location. These act as a way to store and refill weapons and your respawn points upon death. Enemies can sometimes spawn in when you respawn at these points, which is straight up bullshit. I will make some extra points on all these later, but for now, those are the basics. So first, let's talk about the primary objective in the game, killing of all the crime bosses. You find each of them by exploring around, and once you are near one, a mission debrief will play. Every boss has several henchmen guarding them, and the ones guarding them directly typically have increased health and weaponry. This setup does make me feel more like a bounty hunter than a police officer. The location of each member stays the same, and they will just wait there for you to kill them. There are 3 gangs and 7 members in each. Once every member is defeated, there will be a final instance where the last few members show up for a showdown. Once that is done, the area they occupy becomes a void of enemies. I really like this. It allows your actions to have a permanence to them. Also, the game never takes you out of the open world. You never select a mission or anything, it's instant. There are no loading screens, the only fail state is death. If you feel as though this fight is too tough for you, you can leave and come back later at no penalty. You can take out any member in any order. They do seem to have a suggested path, but the game doesn't stop you from progressing in any way you deem fit. If you can do it, do it. Crackdown don't give a fuck. I think this structure is what separates Crackdown from typical open world games, which allows it to feel fresh all these years later. When you approach a member, a debrief will occur. If you thought me saying agent in the agency earlier was weird or redundant, just know that during every single fucking debrief starts with the narrator saying, "New agency intel for you, agent."
New agency intel is downloading straight to your personal network, agent. You can thank the peacekeepers for this. New agency intel, Agent. Downloading new agency intel to your personal network, Agent. Fresh agency intel for you, Agent. Fresh agency intel for you, Agent.
You can skip the debrief, but you can't stop the game from popping up the debrief every time. Every single fucking time. The process of finding these members is not engaging at all. You just stumble around and look for enemies and hope a gang member is around. This can lead to a lot of downtime, just hoping to find something interesting. Once you do find them, they appear on your map. The game isn't very dynamic, the challenges remain consistent, and the open world still ends up feeling limited, in this regard at least. Side note, the map is atrocious. You cannot do basic things like place down markers, the races don't appear on the map, and you cannot even move the map freely. Every member is either in the open or closed off area. The closed off areas don't allow for a great amount of movement, and the areas feel restrictive. The worst one is the Shai Shin final boss. He's in this fucking ridiculous tower with several areas you cannot access without climbing. You will get shot several times just trying to figure out where the fuck to go next. The camera feels awkward and needs to be moved back a bit in order to give the player a greater view of their surroundings. But seriously, how the fuck did this old ass nigga climb this shit when my ass needs superpowers? There's not even a fucking helipad. Seriously, what the fuck? The outdoor areas allow for greater mobility and different ways to tackle the boss. There are multiple routes to many of the bosses, so you don't have to jump into the action all the time. And be warned, because I'm about to spoil the story. The story is really non-existent until the end, so don't worry about it. The agency is evil and caused all the chaos in the city. They wanted the civilians to feel chaos so they are more susceptible to their methods of peace. The end is really abrupt and just weird. My only thought after seeing it was, that's it? Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Crackdown does one thing better than most games I've played, and that is its progression. Every skill improves the more it is used, so the more you jump, the better you get at jumping. The improvement in each skill is felt through gameplay, and the most noticeable is the agility, and it's here where the game truly shines. The world is a sandbox with a ton of verticality and the ability to go on top of every rooftop and climb anything. And the game has this addictive loop of collecting orbs which levels up your agility and allows you to collect even more orbs. The agility does feel awkward at first, but it gets so much better later. After you level up and understand the mechanics, you learn how to best time and aim your jumps. The climbing is awkward and boring, when all you can do is press A over and over again. And I'll say it again, the camera needs to be pushed back a bit. Just give me a FOV slider at least. Agility orbs are classified into different stages. The higher the number, the more is gained through collecting them. Hidden orbs are present, and collecting one improves all skills a little. Driving around is alright, not the worst I've ever seen, but pointless. Jumping around is by far more fun and enjoyable than driving everywhere. I think it's faster too. It's not Saints Row 4 level of ridiculousness, but nothing is. The agency supercar sends lesser vehicles out of your way, which is helpful and hilarious. The city is heavily populated, which is annoying as I would constantly hit civilians. But this skill is one that I found the least necessary to improve because of how little I was in the car. Strength is also easily felt. You go from throwing people at people to throwing cars at people, in addition to improving your health. I already said everything I wanted to about firepower and explosive. Firepower doesn't seem to change all that much, and these issues lead me into problems with the actual combat. So let's now discuss why combat in Crackdown sucks ass. Combat in Crackdown is terrible. To give some positives on the combat, I do like the verticality of the city and the combat arenas. The combat is mostly about positioning over accurate firing, which gives another thing that separates this game from others. That's all the positives I have to say on the combat, so on to a giant list of negatives. The first issue I want to bring up is how little health you have. Even if you work on improving your health, it goes down ridiculously fast if you're caught in a situation with a ton of enemies, which is fucking always. There are times that I die so fast I don't even know what exactly killed me, or from where. And if you think for a second that is somehow okay, I'll ask this question: how can I prepare for something I can't fucking see? If I don't even know what killed me, how can I know what to do better next time? I don't even understand my mistake. I was just dead out of nowhere. And the combat has this annoying stop and start to it because the health regen is so fucking slow. Hurry up, please. The design of the game seems to be about staying mobile and moving around, but it's hard to be mobile when the instant you are seen, you are shot by 50 different places. There's no damage indicator because it would just go everywhere. You're being shot from everywhere at the same time. You get shot more times than Scarface on Groundhog Day. So the methods I had to rely on was killing as many enemies as I can while moving towards the boss and wait for my health to regenerate. And this made the combat so tedious. Or just blindly sprint forward and pray to God I don't get shot. The second method was more fun. The combat in this game needs to be amputated, it cannot be salvaged, so here are some changes I would suggest. First, give the player more health, allow for them to stand their ground, or give a large accuracy decrease to enemies while jumping or running to encourage mobility. Second, give health back upon kills to ensure that we keep killing and not to rely on the health regen. The next one I need to explain some more things before I get to. Locking onto every specific target would be fine in a game about fighting a small number of enemies, and would be the dumbest thing in the world for a game where you are fighting many enemies at a time. Right? So what the fuck is it in this game? You fight legions of gangsters all the time, and the most effective way of killing them is through explosives, but this fucks up progression because you still need to level up everything else too. And I want to make it clear before continuing, the problem is not that explosives are overpowered, the problem is that all guns are underpowered. It takes too long to kill a single target, and you cannot fire accurately without the lock-on. So explosives and rocket launchers are by far the best way to play. It's really the only way to play. They allow for significant crowd control, can be fired accurately without lock-on, and deal massive amounts of damage. All those features are what's missing from the firearms. They are borderline useless. The 2 weapon limit and how powerful the rocket launchers are meant I typically had a rocket launcher and a machine gun. Guess which one got the most use, bitches? But don't think I was being unfair by using explosives, because the enemies will all the goddamn time use one to launch me out of the sky like a flying walrus. And when you get knocked down, hurry the fuck up and stand, bitch, I got shit to do. I think a weapon wheel with a 1 per type of gun limit could be an option, maybe not the best one though. Also have more agency weapons that level up along with the player's firepower skill, but I don't want this effect to be too powerful as that would lessen the need for other guns. So another change I would like to see is less reliance on the lock-on. Increase hipfire accuracy, still have the combat be about positioning, but have the lock-on be a backup. Be able to switch targets while locked on, how the fuck is this not in the game? And just to say something nice about the lock-on, I like how you can target different body parts for different effects. You can aim at legs to knock down enemies, target arms to force them to drop their weapons, or head for quick kills. But I think you can keep the effects for aiming at body parts without forcing the players to use the lock-on. The combat sucks so much ass that extends into the races, because during the races you can and will be shot by several people all the time, which is annoying. At least when the area is clear you can do a race in peace. Finally. The races are split into agility and driving races, each with several checkpoints. You just stand in a circle and boom, race begins. There's one issue that pops up. The only way to restart the race is by going to the starting point again, which may be far away, which causes tedium. If you fuck up a jump during the rooftop race, it doesn't make sense to go on, as the climb back up would take too long, so a quicker way to restart would be appreciated. Also, fuck these trophies that show up at the end of every race. Let me get back to playing. Also, during the rooftop races, I would appreciate it if you didn't have to touch the point and could just fly over it as long as you're in the circle. Each race has a timeout, so you can just wait out anytime you fuck up. The driving races have the issue where you will end up hitting several civilians in and out of cars. It's hard not to when there are a ton of them, and you're trying to go fast. But overall, the races are a fun bit of side content. And since the sequel is coming out soon, I want to discuss my hopes. I won't go into extreme details about what I've seen in trailers because I don't watch much, so sorry if a lot of this is shown already. First, give more abilities while leveling up skills. For agility, they have shown a short thruster forward, but add on to this like have a wall jump, wingsuit, and more crazy shit. Strength is fine how it is, but increase the melee combat effectiveness. It's quite awkward to hit enemies close to you. Revamp the firearms completely. I think I've discussed that enough, as with the combat in general. Change the structure to add more uniqueness and allow it to be dynamic. Don't just have 7 members in each zone, maybe allow the members to have elite bodyguards that patrol around that can be found and killed. And have these members be around and not just in the same spot all the time. Have a better soundtrack as well. I didn't like the selection in this game. Crackdown is still a classic game, but it is very flawed. I know I likely came across more negative, but I do really like Crackdown, and I am very excited for the third game. The structure and the sandbox nature of the game is still refreshing. This is a game that deserves a larger map because this one seems to be designed as a video game and not as a real place. Crackdown still holds up in many ways and should be played by anyone interested in the new game. That's all for me. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye.